One of the most unique things about the 2005 game Shadow the Hedgehog that makes it stand out among other entries in the Sonic series is the use of weapons. A controversial choice for sure, but that's all. The game was universally panned, citing the game's lack of polish, poor level design, unrefined controls, dumb convoluted story, and tone deafness as reasons for it further tarnishing the reputation of the Sonic brand. I liked this game a lot as a kid, despite not even really wanting to buy it in the first place. I recall being in the store and having the choice between this and Garfield 2 for PlayStation 2, and naturally, I chose Garfield. But it had a big old buy one get one free sticker on it, so I thought, why not? I picked up Shadow 2. I was a big fan of Sonic at the time, but I really wasn't that into shooter games, and I think that's what turned me off of it at first. But when I got home and played it, I was surprised at just how much I loved it. Beat it that day, not realizing that I then had to go back and try the other missions for a different ending. Wow, only 7 levels. Short game. I decided to go back and play it for this video, and I was very surprised to see just how much I hated it. Guys, like, this game is complete shit. Before then, I simply thought the game was mediocre, but it's terrible. The controls are some of the worst I've ever experienced in a video game. It's clearly built off the Heroes engine, but in an attempt to slow the speed character's gameplay down, they made Shadow so slippery and hard to control. I can never anticipate where I'm gonna go with him. He reaches max speed in like 2 seconds, yet stops on a dime. He's way too fast for his own good. The level design is genuinely awful. It either traps you in a bunch of tiny maze-like rooms, or just asks you to run in a straight line or do really basic moving platform challenges, the laziest way of creating level design. That's not even to mention the dumbass choose-your-own-adventure shit, where depending on whether or not you do the hero, villain, or neutral mission in a stage, the outcome of your story changes, despite the game having a final canon ending, so it doesn't even really matter what you pick. And some of the completely asinine things this game has you do for certain missions, like destroying all the enemies of a specific alignment in a level, or the worst one where you have to go around the space colony arc with Maria and tediously look for and kill 35 artificial chaos, but the stage is so fucking massive, meaning this usually takes like 30 minutes to do, without meticulously following a guide. Fuck this game. Anyways, carried over from Heroes is the fact that enemies now have health meters, a decision I didn't really mind in that game, as it incentivizes you to go and switch to other characters to utilize their unique abilities, and to try and level them up as soon as possible to do more damage. But with no alternate characters in this game, how did they make up for that here? Well, Shadow actually received a couple new moves not seen in a Sonic game before, some of which would actually end up being used later on in the series. Of course, he's got the classic spin dash, and oh boy is it as shit as ever. Then there's the new slide ability, which would go on to be used in Sonic 06 and the rest of the Boost Formula games. And who could forget his dinky little punching kick that stretches his limbs out to all hell. Like, Jesus guys, there's squash and stretch, and then there's making Shadow look like he's made a fucking putty. But to make up for these shitty additions, the big selling point of the game would be that we get to see the Hedgehog wielding a variety of guns and weapons throughout the game, a decision which did not go over well with the general public. Are you that desperate to get hips with the kids, Sega? Do kids even respond to this? Yes, I was one of them. I thought the game was more adult and cool because of the themes and gunplay. Criticize Sega all you want, but hey, it worked. This actually wasn't the first time Sega considered giving a Sonic character a gun. Gamma from Sonic Adventure was conceived from Yuji Naka being requested to give Sonic a firearm, and then later on, while not thinking it would work for Sonic, they felt it could also suit a character like Shadow. And I'm not quite sure if this is a controversial opinion, but I kinda liked the gunplay in this game. The game overall is still a heaping pile of shit, but it's weird that the most controversial thing about it ended up being the best and most polished feature. It aims onto enemies, meaning all you really gotta do is press a button and whoa, look at Shadow go. Sadly though, some weapons are more useful than others. Like, how many of you out there unironically use the speed limit sign to defeat enemies? How about the survival knife? What the fuck? So that's what I decided to do here today. We're ranking every single weapon in Shadow the Hedgehog. Yes. I love the idea behind the egg gun. The previous game, Sonic Heroes, introduced Eggman's new robot minions, the Eggpawns, who are like the best Eggman robot designs in the series. I love them. So it's really cool that they let you take one of their guns after destroying them. These guns have actually continued to appear in other Sonic games, such as Generations and Colors, so hey, that's gotta be worth some points. And as a weapon, it's pretty useful. Just your standard gun with 20 rounds. Not the most unique thing out there, but as it is, I think the design and general coolness of using an Eggman's robot gun makes up for it, and puts it at the highest point in my list so far. Because it's the only one. The Flash Shot belongs to the Black Arms faction, and is actually one of the better guns in the game. It's got a pretty cool design, kinda looks like the Starship Enterprise actually. The black arms being aliens means they could really get creative with these gun concepts, but as it is, it really just works the same as the egg gun, 20 rounds. But what elevates it to god tier status is the fact that it's got a super fast firing rate. If you manage to fill up your chaos meter, which gives you infinite ammo, you can just go to fucking town with this. Destroys everything in sight, it's great. And the cool purple light effect it gives off when shooting also looks neat. I'm sorry, egg gun, but your reign of terror as #1 was fun while it lasted. The Gatling gun is fucking amazing, I love it. First of all, it has 40 rounds, double what these other two had. And that's all because this thing has an insanely fast firing rate. You can clear out all 40 bullets in like 5 seconds if you hold the shoot button down. Although that can get a little annoying if you accidentally hold the button down for longer than a split second and end up wasting more ammo than you needed to. But that's not why I love it. Oh no. Just why do I love this gun so much? Just look at the fucking size of this thing. It's like 10 times the size of Shadow. He's got some impressive upper body strength because this thing is massive. I don't know how this even got in the game to begin with, because simply running at your normal speed will cause this thing to clip through the ground because of its size. It's just how did they not fucking fix that? Just look at me spin dashing with it. It's just constantly going through the ground. The Gatling gun is the best in the game so far, without a doubt. It's so goofy, I love it.
Heavy machine gun.
The heavy machine gun is just kind of a worse version of the Gatling gun, sadly. It's only got 30 rounds, and the design is nowhere near as cool, being based off the M60 machine gun and M1919 Browning machine gun. Don't ask how I know that, it's because the Sonic Wiki said so. These guns are only really cool when you're using them as part of the gun turrets. If you break them, you can get the gun to carry them around, but it's not really that worth it since you get infinite ammo when it's part of the turret. I can understand wanting to be like the Gatling gun heavy machine, but you can't top the original. Stay in your lane, fucko, bottom of the list. We have another black arms gun with the heavy shot, and hey, it's definitely got one of the more unique designs out of the bunch. It's not to say it's good, but hey. Considering these are aliens, I definitely would have preferred them getting more creative with the types of shots you could have. Like, so far, everything has just been generic bullet or laser. Why not take the Ratchet and Clank approach and get more out there? Well, I guess that would contradict with the whole serious aesthetic they're trying to go for, but still. As a weapon, it's fine. Middle of the road. Dropping it onto the egg gun. At least that one has a fun design.
Do I look like I know what a JP is?
What creative names? We just did the heavy shot. Now we have the light shot. It's just a pistol with a really awful design. Look at this thing. The shape is cool, but then it's got this dumb fucking looking hole in the front of it for the bullet to come out of. Like, it just doesn't look like something that would be efficient at shooting out bullets. I just don't see why you'd ever want to pick this over something like the flash shot. Weakest so far.
Hamburger.
It's just a pistol. Like literally just a pistol. What more is there to say? Actually, you know what? This is 100% the worst gun in the game so far. Not only is it incredibly short range, not only does it only have 10 rounds, but it also does fuck all damage to enemies. No wonder the gun enemies have such shit aim in this game and are so easily taken out. They're practically fighting you with Nerf guns. I'm noticing now just how shit the balancing is here. In a shooter, it's important to give each gun its own pros and cons. Like, maybe it does a lot of damage but has really bad recoil, or maybe it fires fast but has a long reload time. But in Shadow, we have something like the Gatling gun, which has a lot of ammo, long distance, and does a fuck ton of damage. But then there's the pistol again, which has no ammo, is short distance, and does no damage at all. Like how did they not realize this? Yes, this is the worst gun in the game so far. Moving on. Whoa, what is this? An actually kind of creative weapon? What are the odds? This is actually a really good gun. It shoots out a giant purple ring, as the name implies, giving it the biggest radius of any weapon we've looked at so far. On top of that, it's decently strong, and gives you a respectable 20 rounds. It's even got a cool design that fits with the theme. Being more circular and the ring shape on the front implies what's going to shoot out of it, meaning it's easy to see from far away. As we're going to see later on, it gets kind of hard at times to make out which gun it is until you're picking it up. That's why having unique designs is so important in a game like this. So yeah, this is one of the best guns in the game. I'd put it right below the Gatling gun, since that one was still strong and again had that really fucking goofy clipping shit going on. But second is nothing to scoff at. Remember what I said about making each gun look unique so you can make out what it is? The semi-auto rifle has nothing special about it. Gives you an alright 30 rounds, has decent range, and does decent damage. There's nothing at all amazing about it. I don't know why they'd even bother putting it in the game. This one is going right above the light shot. I mean, anything's better than a pistol, I guess. The submachine gun is okay. It's definitely meant to be used up close and personal with the enemies, given its low damage and short range. But I think it makes up for it with the fast firing rate. You know, it does a good job at shaving down health bars. I guess this brings up the issue that happens in a platformer like this, trying to adopt the guns from a first-person shooter, because, like, there's no real benefit to using this over, again, something like the Gatling gun, which does more damage and works just as fine from close range as it does long. Again, many aspects of this game were just not thought out very well. This one's going right under the heavy machine gun. And that's all we got for standard guns. Overall, a lot of these just seem to be variations on the same 3 weapons. Like, here's a pistol. Now here's an alien pistol. Now here's an Eggman pistol. But there were times when we got some great ones that stood out. Like the ring shot and my personal favorite, the Gatling gun. I mean, how could you not love it? But for now, let's move on to the laser guns.
Unmanned drones, fucking laser sight.
Here we have the laser rifle. The thing about laser guns in Shadow that give them a benefit over regular guns is that they can bounce off walls for the chance to end up hitting an enemy again for extra damage. Which surely is useful for more enclosed areas. It's not very great for large rooms or the outdoors though. But the trade-off for it is that, well, I guess there really isn't a trade-off. There's more powerful guns. I really want to know what the process of balancing these things out was like. It's pretty powerful. It stands out as being one of GUN's only guns in the game to have a hint of color on it. It looks cool and does a lot of damage. Great gun here. I'm going to drop it right under the ring shot. What the fuck is this design, dude? Who came up with this thing? It's the most obvious joke ever, but it really just looks like a big red alien dick. It's gross. What are these weird spots on the front of it? And look at that handle. How is anyone supposed to grip that? This is another fairly powerful one. Does just about the same amount of damage as the laser rifle, but dude, I have to dock so many points for that god-awful design. This is going right below the egg gun. Let's hope these guns get a little less phallic. I don't even know what to say. I just have to make the dick joke again. Someone clearly had a lot of fun designing these things. Almost too much fun if you ask me. This one is kind of cool though, as it fires out this like straight laser slash. Although there's nothing straight about this. Okay, I'll stop. It reminds me of the Egg Emperor from Sonic Heroes with his whole take this attack, you know the one. I have to give it points for how practical it is and how the attack at least looks unique, but as for the design, it's like I said, yeah, it's unique, I'll give it that. Right above the egg gun. And that's it for laser guns. Surprised there's no Eggman one, but 2 Black Arms ones? But hey, what can you do? Guess they just couldn't choose between these 2 gems. On to the cannons. I don't know if I should say this, guys. I don't know if this is too controversial of an opinion, so please don't get at me too much for this, but here it goes. All the cannons in Shadow the Hedgehog are fucking shit. The bazooka is generic and boring. It's just a fucking bazooka, what do you want me to say? What I will talk about is the most awful feature all these guns share. None of them automatically lock onto enemies. Instead, you have to manually aim with a shitty crosshair to shoot at your targets. In a game that, in theory, is supposed to be fast-paced, and that has enemies that can float in the air above jumping height, what is the benefit to using this over a gun that does just as much damage, gives you way more ammo, and locks on? Worst gun in the game. Most of this is going to come down to the design at this point. The big barrel is shit. It gives you 2 more rounds than the bazooka, but it also doesn't do as much damage from what I could tell. Fuck this gun. It's the new worst in the game. Oh boy, we had the big barrel, now we have the black barrel. How different. I can't really tell what the differences are. I want to say it does more damage but has worse range. Maybe, possibly, I don't care. But I'm still going to put it above the black barrel and normal bazooka solely for the design. Both of these are part of the Black Arms weaponry, but this one fits so much better than this brownish greenish piece of shit. I like the bright pink and this darker purple color, although I really am not a fan of these more circular gun designs they keep doing, they just look bad. I think this gun is literally just the exact same as the regular bazooka, but it's the egg bazooka. Oh boy, what a difference. My thoughts on it are basically the same as my thoughts on that one, but I'd still put it above the normal bazooka because of the colors. I don't know, I always liked that mix of different oranges the Eggman weapons went for. I wish his minions had more variety, because other than these 2, I think there's only 1 more weapon from his faction left to go, which is disappointing. Hashtag justice for egg pawns.
So, Phil, is it?
I like and appreciate the idea behind the grenade launcher. Hey, it's something other than a gun finally. But it really does suck dick. It has awful aim, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and its range is fucking pitiful, some of the worst in the entire game. Again, I get what they were going for. I'm always down for them trying to have more creative weapons than just 50 variations of the same gun, but like, now all they gotta do is make them fun to control. Big Barrel, you're very lucky the grenade launcher just saved you. It is now the worst gun in the game. I love the tank cannon as a concept. Just being able to pick up the end of a tank and use it as a gun is hilarious. Again, Sega, you should have done more shit like this, it would have been great. Funny enough, Eggman actually refers to this thing as a vehicle, which suggests that Shadow would have been able to ride a tank at one point, which I'd say is disappointing if all the vehicles in this game weren't utter shit, so that was definitely the better outcome. Worst part is the gun is super powerful, destroying most enemies in one hit, but sadly you can only get it behind a secret door, meaning you can't really use it for long. I didn't even know this thing existed until making this video, so that's not a good sign. But I'll put it above the Egg Bazooka for the concept alone. And there we have the cannons out of the way. They're shit. Lock-on weapons are like an in-between of the regular guns and cannons. They sort of work like the mechs in Sonic Adventure 2, where you have to hold in the button and aim at all the enemies you want to attack, and then let go and see the destruction, which is cool. So let's see if any of them manage to surpass any of the regular guns finally. The 4-shot RPG is actually pretty decent. It does a lot of damage, has pretty good range. Honestly, the only downside is that it only has 12 rounds, and that you have to manually lock onto the enemies. Again, I think in a game where you have a majority of guns that auto-lock on, why would I even want to do it myself? What's the point? Still though, for what it is, the 4-shot RPG is alright. I'm putting it above the light shot. There's only one thing I can think of being better than that. Firing double the shots of the previous, why would you ever want the 4-shot over the 8-shot? Again, a big issue here is ammo, meaning unless you can find a ton of these close together, you're only going to have it for a few seconds. But 24 is still a big improvement over 12. For the time you have it, it does plenty of damage and has great range. I'm putting this one above the 4-shot, obviously. Here we have the big worm shooter. Ugh. Dude, what the fuck is this design? What is the yellowish, ugly brown color and the unsettling fleshy bit in the middle? It looks like a... Like, you know, we're not even gonna talk about it. It's about as useful as your average lock-on weapon. The other two are better for sure. And the usefulness is sort of negated because this thing only has 6 fucking rounds before running out. So if you ever run across this one, you're better off skipping it. I'm dropping this one below the tank cannon. In terms of design, this is as basic as you can get. It's just a simple RPG. Although I am a fan of the stylish red and yellow stripe.
And this racing stripe here, I feel is pretty sharp.
But other than that, it's just a GUN version of the big worm shooter with 6 measly rounds. I'm putting this one above it though for the, you know, design improvements. The wide worm shooter is pretty great. In terms of design, it's sadly just a purple version of the big worm shooter. Still not great, but I'll be honest, the color change does wonders in taking away that uncanny feeling. Thankfully, that's not the only thing that's better. This thing has 18 rounds of ammo, meaning it's lasting a little bit longer, but the trade-off is that it doesn't do as much damage. But I'll take that any day over this piece of shit. The worm shooter, seriously, what the fuck? Who decided on these names? The worm shooter, big worm shooter, wide worm shooter. The creative juices were surely running over at Sonic Team that day. So many of these guys are just worse versions of previous ones that I really don't see why they didn't just have an upgrade system. Like you start with the worm shooter, then you can upgrade it to the big worm shooter, and then you can then upgrade that to the wide worm shooter. Like why? Why not just do that? If I ever see the worm shooter and the wide worm shooter next to each other, why would I never just not go for the wide? Either way, this one is just the exact same as the big worm shooter. Good damage, but shit ammo, only 6 again. What a waste of a slot, it's just a blue version of a pre-existing gun with some shit in the front of it. Going right above the big worm shooter.
No, 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 go. Let go.
I like the idea behind the lock-on weapons. I understand wanting to reference the gameplay of SA2, but these are so unneeded and unwanted in a game, where again, there are more than enough guns that auto-lock on. Such a waste of development time. Speaking of... The vacuum pod is really only useful for the mission with Tails, where you have to collect 400 rings since it draws them all in without sacrificing ammo. But the trade-off is that you can only suck in smaller enemies, not larger ones, which levels are full of. So at that point, you might as well just take a regular gun. And I know you can fire the small ones at the larger ones, but at that point I may as well just take a normal gun with regular bullets. Vacuum is kinda shit. Again, other than the one mission, but there's no need to pick this thing up. Skip this shit, I'm putting it under the pistol. And that's all we have for vacuums. Yep, just one. Moving on. Just for clarity, I don't think any of these close combat weapons are going to be anywhere near the top. If I can get a gun that kills a target in a couple hits from a mile away, why would I ever want to grab a melee weapon that not only do I have to be up close and personal to use, but that also has a fucking ammo meter? Yes, the melee weapons have an ammo meter. Why? Maybe if these things could be used forever, it incentivizes the player to use them. But nope, you don't have any ammo to reload your fucking tree branch.
Shut the fuck up!
The black sword definitely has a neat design. I like the dark sheet of purple used, and the asymmetrical design with thorns coming out does look cool. Although again, and you're gonna be hearing this a lot, it only has 6 fucking rounds. It should have way more than that. Wait, no, it should have no fucking rounds. It's a sword. You can only attack 6 times with this thing before it's gone forever. Why would I ever want to use that? This is at the bottom of the list. A hammer is a cool idea, although I am surprised there's no point in this game where you're able to wield Amy's. You know, Sega should try making a Sonic Brawler game like Dynasty Warriors or Bayonetta, where you can finally utilize all these unique weapons and abilities that Sonic characters have. Anyways, the Dark Hammer is shit. For something with dark in the name, you sure are a pretty bright shade of blue. This thing looks fucking lame, it looks nothing like a hammer. Neat idea, but again, this thing is shit, going under the black sword if that were even possible.
Bring your ass here. You stick right here or whoop your ass.
Again, I'm going to be pretty lenient towards the third and final Eggman weapon, just because I think it's a cool idea that you gotta carry and use the sword of an Eggman robot from the previous and best Sonic game, Sonic Heroes. The cons for this one is, again, it's the 6 ammo count, but in terms of pros, it's got a cool design. Putting this one above the big barrel. Environmental objects are all listed under the same weapon because they're basically reskins of each other. Really, they're just weapons in the game that you either find laying on the ground or by destroying a part of the environment. No shit. These can come in the form of traffic signs, torches, tree branches, shovels, etc. There are a ton and I don't really care enough to go into all of them. All you need to know is the tree branch is the best because it has that Gatling gun issue of being way too fucking big for Shadow and I love it. It's the worst in the game. So here we have the survival knife. A fucking what? Wah, Shadow has a gun. Wah, Sonic has a sword. Yeah, how about we talk about how there's an official Sonic game where you can wield a goddamn knife that you can use to stab humans. This weapon has the shittiest range in the whole game and isn't very strong, but like, it's a fucking knife. I'm putting it right under the Gatling gun. Fuck off, this is my list. Make your own. What a waste of development time. These things were clearly just added for the sake of marketing. You can use guns, and swords, and knives, and spears, and hammers. What variety? Only to realize they all play the same and all suck. Speaking of suck, the final string of weapons in the game, the special weapons. You get these for meeting certain requirements like beating a specific level out of the entire game. They're mostly references to other Sega franchises, which is cool, but you can only get these from special Shadow crates, which are fairly uncommon. Based off Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, the vacuum gun basically just works the same as the regular vacuum. However, the more stuff you suck in, the larger the egg at the back fills up and eventually just straight up bursts. Surprisingly, this is one of the only guns in the game that can be upgraded. By completing the final stage, it's now at level 2, which really just allows it to store more enemies. What an improvement. I like this thing for how weird it looks, but honestly, it's just another vacuum. It's going right above that. The heal cannon is an interesting but fucking pointless concept. So get this. If you shoot it at an enemy, it restores their health gauge instead of depleting it. And if you hit them, the enemy is now on your side, with the black arms becoming neutral to you and the gun soldiers standing to salute Shadow, but like, that's just the fucking same as if I were killing them. So get this, I can either press the square button to shoot the enemy which kills it, or I can press the square button to heal the enemy, which neutralizes it. What's the fucking difference? They're not gonna bother me anymore at the end of the day. What a fucking waste of a cool concept. This is the new worst weapon in the game. It has literally no fucking functionality. The Omo Chow gun is genius. I'd like to think Sega were receiving complaints about how annoying he was in the previous games, and so just made a gun where you get to shoot him out at enemies. And beyond that, it's also super useful. He's got a giant fucking head which gives it a ton of range. And it also bounces off of walls, meaning one can do a ton of damage in enclosed areas. Imagine if the whole game had creative Sonic-themed guns like this. Yeah, alright, point taken. This one goes right under the Gatling gun. I mean, come on, that's still hard to beat. The Samurai Blade is fucking dope. Look at the length of this thing. Ah yeah, now we're talking! This means it has alright range compared to other melee attacks, but when upgraded it can also send out a shockwave that harms any enemy in its path. The biggest issue though is it only has 3 rounds of ammo before going away, making it pretty pointless. I was gonna put it above the knife for the design alone, but that kinda ruins it. And for that it's gonna have to go under the knife. The satellite gun looks so dumb. What the fuck is this even supposed to be? Does this scream satellite gun? But then you get it in the game and it looks like this. This gun sucks. Again, cool concept though. Remember in Westopolis how a bunch of lasers drop from the sky causing an explosion? Well, it basically is a smaller scale version of that. Except it locks onto the enemy, meaning if they move, which most do, they're gonna be out of range of the blast radius by the time the laser hits. What a fucking waste. This is going right under the bazooka, which sucks again because it's a cool idea. And finally, we ended on the Shadow Rifle, which you receive after completing the last way, the final level of the game. The Shadow Rifle is really cool. First of all, just look at the size of this thing, it's huge. And even the design is neat. I love the colors, and having the Black Arms logo on the handle is a neat touch. Beyond that, it also kills most enemies in one hit, making it the most powerful weapon in the whole game. The only real issue with this gun is that you get it for completing the final level in the game. I'll be fucked if I'm playing any more of this piece of shit game just so I can use this slightly stronger gun. So Shadow Rifle, you're cool and I appreciate you, but I'm never ever going to end up using you. You're going right under the Omo shotgun. There we have it. All the guns in Shadow the Hedgehog ranked.
But the swords and stuff aren't gone.
They have an ammo count. They're guns, motherfucker. Fight me. If you want to know what we ended up with, here's my list. The Gatling gun, Omo gun, Shadow Rifle, Survival Knife, Samurai Blade, Ring Shot, Laser Rifle, Flash Shot, Splitter, Egg Gun, Refractor, Heavy Shot, Heavy Machine Gun, Submachine Gun, Semi-Auto Rifle, 8-Shot RPG, 4-Shot RPG, Wide Worm Shooter, Light Shot, Pistol, Egg Vacuum, Vacuum, Black Barrel, Tank Cannon, RPG, Worm Shooter, Big Worm Shooter, Egg Bazooka, Bazooka, Satellite Gun, Egg Spear, Big Barrel, Grenade Launcher, Black Sword, Dark Hammer, Environmental Weapons, and Heal Cannon. And now after all this, we're only left wondering, why did I waste my time on this?